Hello, fellow humans. Chris here again. So, wanted to do just a quick commentary on the recall election here in my home state of California. As you've probably heard by now, the recall was a failure, and Gavin Newsom will retain his seat in office. I did a video a few weeks back on this, mainly because I was concerned that there might be apathy on progressives' part and people on the left in in the state. Um, Part of that just being recognizing how foolish and ridiculous really the whole recall campaign itself was, and therefore because of that not participating in it because you just sort of assume it's just going to be a wash and nothing's going to come of it because of how ridiculous it is. You know, just based off of the historic margin that Gavin Newsom won the general election in 2018, won by a wider margin than anyone had in 70 years in the state. And sometimes when something seems so obvious, you just don't participate because you just think, okay, well, there's no point. He's obviously gonna win. So I was a little nervous, and I'm happy that 64 to 65% of the population that voted no on the recall. So I was definitely glad about that. I wanted to comment on just kind of a realization that I had personally. I was really concerned. Again, obviously, that's why I made that little video about it. Um, I was concerned partially because I was hearing a lot of noisy, angry, complaining, dare I even call it whining, over the last 18 months or so on Gavin Newsom, particularly with regards to the pandemic. And these voices can be very, very loud and kind of dominate the narrative if you let it. And I've seen this in other areas too. YouTube is a great example, actually. When the situation with Gwen Berry happened, if you YouTube videos on Gwen Berry around that time, most of the videos have a very, very high thumbs down to thumbs up ratio. And same thing with like Gavin Newsom, videos about Gavin Newsom and the recall. Um, Anytime there's like a video on mask mandates or increasing in those types of things, increasing in coronavirus response, there tends to be a very heavily weighted thumbs down to thumbs up ratio, and I found that interesting, and that concerned me in a sense, and that what has happened for me is this whole experience with the recall has kind of reminded me that oftentimes the loudest voices in the room aren't necessarily the majority. We had an example of the vocal minority here, I think, in this case. And there's hope in that for me because it just it helps me realize that things in my state aren't quite as crazy from an ideological perspective as I kind of thought if I'm looking in this one avenue of communication. And I guess that is to say that you make you do your Yelp reviews. You tend to be more inclined to do a review when you have something negative to say. So I guess I'm happy that common sense prevailed. I'm happy that the percentage of votes that Gavin Newsom got is very much consistent with the percentage that he got in 2018 when he won the general election. So I'm glad that the overall kind of craziness that is hyped up over the last year and a half hasn't really changed proportionally to the population. And while I don't necessarily think that the recall election is purely about Trump, there is a strong overlap of Trump supporters and recall supporters, and this is highlighted just by the fact of Donald Trump himself endorsed Larry Elder, who was the main frontrunner challenger to Gavin Newsom in this recall. And I was very concerned about a Larry Elder becoming the governor of my state. And so in that regard, yes, this was a rejection of Trumpism in my state. I do believe that. 2-1. It depends on how you look at it. I think 2-1 is a pretty sizable majority, but that's still 34 to 35% of the population that agreed with it. So I think the lesson is not to let our guard down, to make sure that we allow our voices to be heard from a progressive standpoint. We don't have to be the loudest in the room. We don't have to be the ones causing a ruckus and acting belligerent and childish and name-calling. Just being logical, I think, and asserting our principles, I think, is the way to go in a peaceful way. But anyway, just something I was thinking about. I'm glad that the loud, belligerent, obnoxious voices have kind of toned down a little bit in the last day, at least in my neck of the woods. I know they'll resurface soon with a new thing to be offended about. Maybe it'll be another company that changed their name to something that makes them feel all hurt inside. I don't know. But anyway, I will check up with you all again very soon. Thanks for checking in on me. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, don't be afraid to question the consensus.